Hello everyone, it's your big ass, thick ass furry here today with another backstory video. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, huge turn of events right there. I have not done a backstory video in a very long time and I'm excited to get back into it. So last time I did Paul's backstory and I just watched that video and the narration, oh my god, I'm embarrassed. And yeah, I'm not so good with narration as I am with voice acting. Like, voice acting is more my thing, narration's pretty different. Still, I thought that the narration was really bad and could definitely use some improvement. So today I am here with Fish's backstory, which I have pretty much been ready for ever since I did Paul's backstory video. From what I remember, I wrote down Fish's backstory like 2 seconds after I finished Paul's backstory video. But I still had the drawing to make of it, so that's why I waited so long. But then I did make the drawing of it, and I guess I just chose not to make the video due to procrastination or something. But anyways, here, I'll show you all the drawings that I made over the time of this thing. Yeah. Here's the original version that I made quite a while ago. The lack of shading and the lack of tall legs in this art piece are completely killing me. I suppose that the bubbles do say quite a bit about how his story is going so far. Here was the abandoned one that I absolutely hated and quit working on, and I hated it because I was going through a bad art block at the time. Looking back on this though, it's not even that bad. Like, sure, there are the things that I need to improve on, there always will be, but still, it's really not that bad aside from a couple of flaws that I can detect right off the bat. For example, the feet look completely different, and that one on the right, well, our right, but his left, looks really weird. The legs are pretty long, honestly, but other than that, I can't find too many flaws with it. Also, I was trying to get rid of same face syndrome at the time, and I ended up kind of butchering his face by making it all squirch and weird, and it was... And finally, the version that you will be seeing in this video. Yes, the legs are still long. I apologize. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is the finished version. Some nice shading, just some nice, some nice improvement, pretty much. Woohoo, let's get started. It'll pretty much be the same as last time, where I read out Fish's backstory that I wrote down here in my little notebook thingy. And I will have that drawing up for display for you all to look at it and see the different thought bubbles, to see all the different events that took place in his life. So, my name is Alamation, signing out. I probably won't have an outro for this video, so that's why I'm saying goodbye now. Enjoy the backstory. Made by teenagers, Fish wasn't named when he was born. He was a pink dog with big eyes, a nameless baby without loving parents. They were 16 and 15 and only cared about each other and... You know what? They couldn't care less about their own baby, who again wasn't named at the time. He was fed applesauce and applesauce only for months, and he was getting desperate for some real food. About 4 months passed, and his parents had a fight. They snapped at each other, hitting and throwing each other's valuables everywhere. One of the items hit Fish, who was sitting on a desk. The impact of it caused him to go flying, and he landed on a table with a fishbowl on top. He then noticed the small orange speck moving around within the bowl. It reacted to his presence immediately and did a little friendly wave. Fish and the fish became best friends. Until the fish died. He was heartbroken to lose such a great friend despite being only a baby. His parents decided that pet fish would serve as a great distraction so they wouldn't have to deal with their child as much. I mean, win-win, I guess? So Pet Fish replaced Pet Fish over and over again until the boy became so obsessed with fish, he wanted his name to be Fish. His first word was fish, he had toy fish, he buried all 271 of his fish in the backyard, and they started to move to the front yard. He was addicted to fish. And so the change was made. His name was officially Fish. While Fish's parents continued to neglect him, his fish kept him company. Then school started and he was so excited to meet other people. Fish had wanted friends for a very long time, considering all he had were specks of color in glass bowls that died in a matter of weeks. Sure enough, he made plenty of friends with his kooky behavior, sense of humor, and positive personality. Then 4th grade came along and we're moving! Fish and his small family ended up traveling from Moore, Oklahoma to North Carolina. He was very sad to leave his friends behind, but knew he could make new ones where he was going. Fish met a girl in his new class named Isabel who was very encouraging and sweet. She was also excellent at giving advice, so Fish always wrote notes to her in class whenever he had problems. Soon, Fish met Paul at Isabel's birthday party later that year, and they immediately became best friends. One day, Fish and his father went to a baseball game together. While his dad was talking to someone at a hot dog stand, Fish eyed a pretty girl across the walkway. He blushed and approached her slowly. Since he kept sweating and was red as a tomato, the girl noticed he must have liked her. Before he could even say a word, she told him off real good and told him that he shouldn't judge people by their looks so much next time and to go get a life. She scoffed that he should learn about their personality first before crushing on them, idiot. Offended, Fish stomped into the stadium with his dad. The game ended and Fish thought about the girl again. He figured she was very smart but very snobby as well. She didn't seem to be happy. He gave it another go despite not liking her personality and apologized for only talking to her for her looks. The girl introduced herself as Rosetta but laughed at Fish's name. They started talking about their friends, hobbies, passions, and what schools they went to. She and Fish did not attend the same school. They had a decent conversation, then hugged. Little did Fish know that the last 20 minutes they were talking meant absolutely nothing to Rosetta. While hugging, she stole change out of his back pocket secretly, then acted like a little angel. The change was earned from walking the neighbor's dog, something Fish did weekly since the owner went out every Wednesday. As mentioned previously, Fish's parents didn't care too much about him and wanted his hard-earned money each week. The usual routine was Fish walks the dog, gets money, then gives the money to his stingy parents. Unfair, huh? Fish had nothing. On the ride home, his dad asked for his money, and Fish had nothing. Every time Fish would do something wrong, he'd get whacked with a wooden spoon. He hated that spoon. And needless to say, that's exactly what happened that same night. He wrote what happened to Isabel the next day, and they devised a plan. They brought the wooden spoon to Rosetta's school, searched through several lines of impatient students waiting for class to start, and finally found that backstabber. They whacked her hard, argued a bit, and it all ended with Fish tackling her and both of them going to the principal's office. Rosetta, she was the gem of the school, and the principal trusted her with her life. She got off the hook right away, but the school called Fish's parents. Isabel lost the wooden spoon to Rosetta, so his parents whacked him with a butter knife. It hurt like Satan! The next day, Fish was in a bad mood. His parents loved him less now, and Isabel felt sorry for getting him into trouble. He did have Paul to talk to, though. During lunch, he discussed the matter with his best pal. Paul cheered him up right away, and that night, Fish had a dream that they were together. Things started to change a lot between Paul and Fish from that point on. Fish would blush if he was near him, he struggled to communicate with him, and he never stopped thinking about him. Ever. Even in his sleep, Paul managed to stay in his mind, flooding Fish with dreams of love and happiness. Embarrassed, Fish sought a distraction, a girl to date. He figured liking other boys was weird and gross, so a girl would be the solution, right? One day, he found a small lynx his age crying alone on the ground. Her name was Cupcake, and she'd just broken up with her abusive boyfriend who cheated on her many times. They got together in the summer, then her ex, Roger, started cheating in November, the same month Fish moved. Now they were approaching the end of the school year. Luckily, Roger was a grade above them, meaning they only had to deal with him for a couple of weeks. Then he'd move on to middle school. Cupcake and Fish became friends that day. As the weeks went on, Fish realized that the distraction wasn't really working. The last day of school came and he was confused as ever. He didn't like Cupcake, only as a friend and nothing else. She was clingy, a little annoying, and sensitive. At the same time, she was adorable, sweet, and compassionate. Before the last day of school began, Cupcake and Fish were sitting together on a bench on campus, waiting for the bell. They talked a bit. Then Cupcake leaned in for a kiss. Their lips touched, and due to anxiety and confusion, Fish pulled away in 3 seconds and ran away crying. Cupcake was hurt, then got beaten up by Roger and his friends who were secretly spying on her and saw the kiss. With no staff outside, Cupcake stayed there on the ground in pain, skipping class to sob and ache. Recess came and Fish found her to apologize for running away that morning, then noticed that she was badly hurt. Roger snuck up behind him, then let him have it as well. Fish continued to date Cupcake to serve as a distraction from Paul, which was working, but the downside was he didn't even love Cupcake. Like, at all. Eventually, Cupcake's birthday came along in August, and over the summer she'd met some great friends. One of them, however, Ray-Bai, was the same age as Roger and also happened to be his new girlfriend. She only came to the party to gather info about Cupcake and said she and Roger were going to devise a plan against her. She was scared about what would happen, but Fish comforted her and made her birthday fun. After a while, Fish decided to tell Paul that he wasn't happy with Cupcake and asked her what to do, but he wasn't the best with advice. But he didn't want to ask Isabel for advice because she was a lot more sensitive than Paul and might get mad at him or even stop being his friend. So he just went along with it until November. It'd been an exact year since Roger broke Cupcake's heart. Fish met a girl named Cotton Ball who was very active, kind, and humorous. She was Fish's type of girl and he developed feelings for her. But he didn't want to hurt Cupcake, and if he broke up with her, she'd be heartbroken. After all, she really liked him, so he left it alone for a while until he saw Cotton Ball and Rosetta fighting in the hallway. Puzzled, he took Cotton Ball outside and asked what the heck Rosetta was doing here. Apparently, she had to transfer to this school from her old one. She and Cotton Ball knew each other since preschool, but they were never really friends or got along. Now that Rosetta was here, it would definitely cause some problems. Cotton Ball and Fish then kissed, and they immediately got together. Little did they know that Cupcake had been following Fish and was watching and crying. The next day, Fish got upsetting messages from Cupcake, and he knew she must have seen them somehow, but he was happy with Cotton Ball and didn't want to change that. Though he cared about Cupcake, he had never loved her to begin with. She was just a friend, but she didn't take it that way. At school, it was pouring down rain, and Cupcake sat at the entrance, crying. She fought with Fish the instant he arrived and then had a massive panic attack and was carried off by a teacher. Fish, while feeling guilty, continued dating Cotton Ball. They loved each other very much, and she definitely took his mind off of Paul. Meanwhile, Cupcake was cutting and skipping school. Once her mom found out about her absences, she was livid. She lectured her daughter and yelled at her, shaming her for ditching. Within weeks, Cupcake committed suicide. The news was soon announced to the whole school, and Fish felt horrible. He figured it was all his fault for cheating. If only he was more sincere, or at least broke up with her before dating Cotton Ball. He felt like a murderer. Poor Cupcake was gone forever. He couldn't erase his mistakes, and he had just caused someone's death. But he had to stay strong and keep going without her. After all, he still had Paul, Isabel, Cotton Ball. He could manage. 5th grade ended. Fish visited Cotton Ball. She visited him. Everything was great. Until the last day of summer. Fish received a text from Cotton Ball saying she was moving away. She didn't even say it in person. Fish was angry, heartbroken, and devastated. He cried himself to sleep, scared for middle school, and ignored his girlfriend's text. In the morning, he removed her from his contacts and blocked the number. He cried while he got ready for his first day of middle school. He missed Cotton Ball a lot. The years passed and not much happened. Fish kept thinking about Paul and still had a crush on him, and he was completely over Cotton Ball. He missed Cupcake, though, as a friend. Fish had a rough time in middle school. His grades went way downhill, and he almost flunked out of 7th grade. 8th grade, however, got strange. One day, Fish heard from Isabel that Paul smoked back in 6th grade and began cutting. What upset him the most, though, was that Paul and Isabel got together. Well, that really screwed up his chances. The likelihood of successfully asking Paul out and him saying yes was now obviously way, way lower. Fish felt incapable of having a relationship with anyone now. He grabbed his sweater and sat outside in the rain and thunder. He then discovered a familiar figure in the distance who was also sitting out in the rain with a sweater on. Rosetta! He sat beside her on the ground and said hi. Rosetta quickly responded with an apology for her past actions and asked about Cotton Ball. They chatted for a bit and even became good friends. Fish even told her about how he was bisexual and how he liked Paul, who was now taken. It was kind of odd how he ended up telling her of all people instead of Isabel or even Paul himself. Many years passed, high school was a blur, and Paul broke up with Isabel due to college complications. Fish started working as a Starbucks employee and got 2 customers in particular who stood out to him. A gay couple. After struggling so much to figure out his sexuality and true love, he wanted to get to know the 2. One was a husky named Sanders and the other was a fox named Jackson. They were cool and Fish introduced them to Paul. He accepted them for being LGBT, which raised Fish's hopes of being his boyfriend. Okay, so if you watched Paul's backstory, you know that the original plan was to have Paul and Fish end up being together in the end. Because apparently Paul was questioning his sexuality all of a sudden, and like, there was no foreshadowing to this event, and even though he was so focused on Isabel, like, basically since kindergarten, and focusing on how he liked her, still, it doesn't make any sense how he's just now thinking, oh, I like fish. Like, it's not realistic. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So, yeah, as you can see, the scribbles, this ain't a thing, and this drawing is old, and I just bumped my camera like crazy, and it's, yeah, so the rest of this is one day he caught Paul taking an Are You Gay quiz, which really surprised him. Paul asked him out, which blah, 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 blah. Yeah, yeah. And even now, there were so many questions, too. Paul was bisexual, too, but didn't even miss Isabel. But he didn't question too much. They were happy, weren't they, guys? So that's all that matters. No, that's not all that matters. Like, this is like those backstories where you only focus on what's happy, either what's gay or what's edgy or whatever's depressing. And people only focus on those and don't actually pay attention to the actual development or if their backstories make any sense. And I made that same mistake here. Basically, their original plan, like, because I put original plan in quotation marks, the actual original plan was to not have them be gay. But then I added on something else because people were sending me Pish fan art. Best ship name ever, am I right? And then I started shipping it myself. But now I hate the ship and it's not canon anymore. And I'm even thinking about remaking my Paul backstory video just so people don't think he's gay still, because lots of people don't read the pinned comment that clearly states he's not gay anymore. But yeah, Paul is not gay, he's not bisexual, he's none of that, he's none of those things. He's heterosexual, he's straight, and Fish is bisexual. They did not get together. They went to college together, went all 4 years, and yeah, they had fun together. Cool stuff. They became friends with Sanders and Jackson, and that is the end of that story. Thank you for watching. Fish and his small family ended up traveling from Moore, Oklahoma to North Carolina. He was very sad to leave his friends behind.